Good evening. I want to call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. We'll start with an invocation by Councilwoman Tate, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Pruitt. If you'll please stand with me.
If you'll bow your head. Our dear Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings on this city. We ask you to bring comfort to those who are in need. We ask for your guidance as a city and a council. All this we ask in the holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Keeling, the roll, please.
Gary Hodge, Ward 1. Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Louis Tonsmeyer, Ward 3.
Here.
Lindsay McDaniel, Ward 4.
Here.
Diane Tate, Ward 5.
Here.
Ward Pruitt, Ward 6. Here.
Thank you, Connie. First order of business is the approval of our council meeting minutes from December the 6th. We've had these well in advance of tonight. Council, I'll entertain any additions, corrections, edits, or motions.
Mayor, a thank you to Ms. Keeling because we very seldom find any corrections, and we didn't again. I didn't again this night. So make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Motion carries. We do have a first reading of an ordinance tonight. Dan?
Yes, Mayor. This ordinance is an amendment to the development regulations for dumpster size. The reason for this is going back through the plans, Bobby Elliott found that the dumpster size is not sufficient for our trucks to get in and out of there and make sure there's enough room. Recommend this approval of the ordinance as emergency reading because any new plans get approved. These dumpsters stay in effect for many years, so it could affect us down the road if we don't get the dumpster size increased under these new regulations. So I recommend approval of this ordinance with emergency reading.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions? Just for clarification, typically ordinances take 2 readings. We're asking for approval on an emergency basis, so we'll vote on this tonight and get it approved. A bit of cleanup stuff. If there are no questions or comments, Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve. On an emergency basis.
On an emergency basis.
Lewis? We make a good team.
Would you like to second that on an emergency basis? Thank you. All in favor on an emergency basis, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We do have a series of first readings relative to our planning development. Mr. Menino.
Got turned around. The first one on the agenda is an annual zoning map amendment. Throughout the year, we've had annexations and zoning requests come in. And since we have readopted the zoning ordinance, we're going to try to keep the map up to date on an annual basis. If somebody comes in to purchase an official zoning map of the city, they get one that's been updated. So with that, the changes include the annexations and zonings that have occurred throughout the year. Again, this is also an ordinance change, and it will require 2 readings.
Okay. Any questions for Randy at this point? And I guess public hearing relative to this? Yes. Thank you. Public hearing now relative to ZMA 12-01, zoning map amendment application by the City of Cartersville. Anybody wishing to step forward, speak for or against may do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close that public hearing. This is a first reading. Council will take this up for final consideration at our first meeting in January. Mr. Osborne, you've got the next one.
Thank you, Mayor. Next item is a text amendment related to the zoning ordinance. In 2010, the zoning ordinance was significantly revised. During that period of 2010 to now, staff has gone through the ordinance listing minor concerns based on implementation, private market demands, and code enforcement. These changes have been recommended by Planning Commission. Most of them are very minor. The ones that are a little more significant are related to the special use option, in which someone would not attempt to rezone their property, but still come before you as mayor and council to get your approval on a specific use. And before they got approval of it, they would need to list, and this would be a change, they would be required to list the effect of the lighting, the parking, things like that, the effect potentially on adjacent properties. Right now, it's something that the mayor and council can consider when looking at a special use application, but the applicant does not have to ahead of time list the possible effects. And this would put into place more information for you to have ahead of time, so that the applicant would have a plan for what they want to do on the property.
Okay. Any questions for Richard on this item? Thank you.
Richard, Mayor, I'm sorry, I was reading. I think it's on page 27, under 17. It says mayor and council may exercise limited discretion evaluating the site. Are those the items you're referring to?
16.1 and 16.3, these sections are proposed to be modified to require an applicant proposing a special use to state the possible effect on the activity of traffic flow, parking, screening, hours and manner of operation, lighting, ingress, egress, and compatibility with surrounding land use.
Not before they move in.
And still have to comply with all other city regulations, but under a special use, these would be the things that we would consider and the applicant would be ready to answer.
Correct, and even above and beyond what some particular uses have. There's some particular uses within the special use category where they're special unto themselves. Maybe you have to have a minimum number of acres, or it has to be owner occupied, things like that. But these general categories are something that for every special use moving forward, the applicant will have to tell you ahead of time how they're going to meet these.
You good?
Yes. I was going to ask about buffers, but protective screening is the same thing, isn't it?
Correct.
Within our neighborhood. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? Thank you. I'll open up a public hearing relative to item T12-03, text amendment application by the City of Cartersville. Anybody wishing to step forward, speak for or against may do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close that public hearing. We'll have this again for final vote consideration at our first meeting in January. Next item, Mr. Menino.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. A few weeks ago, or a few meetings ago, we passed a resolution relating to the Metropolitan Planning Organization, in which the City of Cartersville is about to be a part of. Based on population thresholds, we've exceeded a certain threshold in the 2010 census. With that, we are working with the county to become part of our own Metropolitan Planning Organization. The county will be the lead agency in that endeavor. All the cities within the county will take part in this planning organization. It is required by federal regulation for transportation planning purposes and transportation funding. With that, we recommend your approval on this memorandum of understanding for us to move forward with the actual formation of the Cartersville-Bartow Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Questions for Randy on this?
Mayor, Sam Grove and I were talking about this morning. We weren't sure. Are the thresholds for cities after the census, is that a 20,000 and 100,000?
No, the actual threshold in a certain area is 50,000, and the area that where the certain census tracts come together includes portions of the city, a large portion of the city of Cartersville. The majority of that population was actually county, and even a portion, I believe, of U Harley formed this area where these census tracts touched each other and exceeded the threshold.
But the county is over 100,000.
Yes, the county is over 100,000, but it's where populations are closer together exceed that threshold. So, but the object of it is to have the actual boundary of the county be our entire MPO. That way we control our own transportation planning, short-term, long-term, and we'll have our own transportation list with the Georgia DOT instead of being on the statewide list. We'll have our own input.
And this also keeps us from eventually being engulfed by the ARC.
That is
and being
correct.
a real small fish in a real big pond, and it also gets that real small portion of Emerson that's part of the ARC out of there and into this Cartersville-Bartow MPO.
That is correct. There is a portion of the ARC that goes up into Emerson. They will now become part of the Cartersville-Bartow MPO. We have 2 adjacent MPOs. We had also had the opportunity to join those, I guess the Rome Floyd and the ARC. But again, we think it's a much better effort to form our own MPO.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Chair will entertain a motion for accepting this memorandum of understanding, if there's no further question or discussion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, Ms. Courier.
Mr. Mayor, as part of the affiliation the City of Cartersville has with the Georgia Main Street Program, the City of Cartersville and Downtown Development Authority are asked to sign a yearly memorandum of understanding with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. This is an agreement good for 12 months, starting January 1st, 2013, and ending on December 31st, 2013. Cartersville DDA does request your approval of signing this memorandum.
Okay, questions for Tara on this? And if not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, we got a motion by Councilman Stepp, a second by Councilman Tonsmeyer. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Anderson, you've got the next couple, please.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council. This is a standard agreement with the American Red Cross for them to be able to utilize the Cartersville Civic Center in case of disaster. And we, E-Verify and save documentation is not required. City Attorney has reviewed this, and I recommend approval.
Questions for Greg? If there are none, motion's in order.
Let's hope we never have to use it, but make a motion to approve.
Second.
Actually, I got a second by Ms. Pruitt, Councilwoman Pruitt over there, so we have, unless you want to third it.
That's enough.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And then some. Next item.
All right, may I point out something on this agreement? On the last page,
Yes.
there's a place, says water, gas, electricity, and waste disposal. When you sign it, you need to initial under the owner's initials, because the next paragraph says that they won't pay for those costs unless it's initialed by you and Red Cross.
Okay, thank you. Connie, you got that? She always keeps me straight. Go ahead, Greg.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council. This next item is with Vaulted Vending. It's an agreement. Vaulted Vending is a company that approached us after our annual Georgia Parks Recreation Department Association meeting. They provide vending machines for ducks, fish, wildlife that you place in your at your lakes. At Dillinger Lake, we have problems with geese, ducks, and fish, all the above. They are, although they are, the kids love to go out there and pet them. We have, do not feed the wildlife, but that's just impossible well, it's impossible to
Stop it from happening.
it's possible to stop it. There you go. And but anyway, this we have checked with our local DNR ranger, Mr. Chip Cox, and although he does not advocate us feeding the wildlife, this is a much safer, much healthier food than bread, which is what most of our patrons use. This is nothing at no cost to the city. The vendor will he will furnish the machine, service the equipment, and we'll be splitting the revenue 50-50 with the city. I have checked out all the references. Everyone that emailed that he sent called me back or emailed me, and they're very pleased with this company. And although it has not deterred any of their wildlife population, some of the area is cleaner. The stuff. Anyway, we have all the E-Verify and save documentation, have their certificate of liability insurance, and I recommend approval of this.
Any questions for Greg on this? And if not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Sam, you handling this quick claim deed?
Yeah, this is relative to a street that was never opened. George Power is requesting that we quit claim back the adjacent property owners so they can acquire the property. And I recommend you approve it.
All right. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Myers, you have the next few.
Yes, Mayor, the first item there is a quote from Cogsdale, who's the company that does our utility billing system. And this is the quote, $12,870 to do the changes necessary for the new electric rates.
All right. If there are no questions or comments, the motion is in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Continue on, sir.
Yes, sir. The next item is replacement of a HVAC unit at the electric department office. Our existing unit failed, and it was almost as much to repair the unit as to replace it, so we opted to replace it. And this work has already been done, but the total cost to replace the inside and outside was $8,958.84.
Okay. If there's no discussion, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is involving, if you've got a copy of that sheet, we're going to remove that from the agenda for this evening. That'll show up at a later date. Mr. Molinax, you have the next three, I believe.
Mayor, Council. The first item is for the number 2 high service pump valve repair at the water treatment plant. Bids were accepted for a 24-inch butterfly valve and all piping necessary to do the installation. Quotes were received from 4 different vendors. The lowest price was from HD Supply in the amount of $10,950.35. This will be paid for from the maintenance, the budget item for maintenance of the water treatment plant. We do have the E-Verify and Save documentation in hand.
Okay, any questions for Ed on this? And if not, a motion's in order.
Motion for approval, low bid.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item is a valve actuator for the high service pump at the water treatment plant. The number 2 high service pump valve actuator needs to be replaced. This is a sole source item. The supplier is Harold Beck & Sons Inc. Incorporated. They submitted a price of $9,530. We feel this is a fair price. This will be paid for from the budget item for maintenance of the water treatment plant. We do have the E-Verify and Save documentation in hand.
Okay, questions or comments on this item? And if not, motion is in order.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next one, Ed, please.
The next item is just an inventory restock for distribution and collection. We received price quotes from 4 different suppliers for this material. HD Supply submitted a low bid in the amount of $10,847.86. We recommend approval of this purchase from HD Supply. This is a budget item, and we do have the E-Verify and Save documentation in hand.
Okay. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve the HD Supply bid.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ed. We do have one item to add to the agenda tonight before we get to the finance report. Motion to add that item to the agenda.
So
Motion to
moved.
add. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Item is added. Mr. Archer.
Yeah, our office this afternoon received a letter from Raymond James, which is the company that is handling, being the underwriter for the tax anticipation note that we are proposing to do soon. The law now requires the underwriter to make certain disclosures with regards to the transaction. You have a 3-page letter with a 2-page attachment that complies with the statute requiring that disclosure. And the only thing the council needs to do is authorize the mayor to sign the acknowledgement that the city has received that disclosure.
Whatever y'all want to do with that.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Jace. Tom, you've got our financial report.
Honorable Mayor and Council, we'll be reviewing tonight October the 2012 financial report. The general fund revenues increased over last October by $172,000. Expenses have increased $284,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses and increased operating expenses. Excuse me. 3 areas of revenue that I look at on a monthly basis are the local option sales tax. You'll see that we've decreased by $70,000 over last year. Police fines and forfeitures, we've increased by $125,000. And building permits and inspection fees, we've decreased by $8,000. In the water and sewer fund, revenues have increased over last year by $123,000. Expenses increased by $450,000. This increase is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, increased debt service expenses, and increased capital expenses. In the gas fund, revenues have decreased from last year by $802,000. Expenses have decreased by $1.1 million. This is due mainly to decreasing cost of purchased gas. In the electric fund, revenues have decreased from last year by $782,000, while expenses have increased by $201,000. This increase is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased cost of purchased electricity. Stormwater fund, revenues increased from last year by $12,000. Expenses have increased by $60,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. In the solid waste fund, revenues increased from last year by $47,000. Expenses have increased by $77,000. This increase is due to increased personnel expenses and operating expenses. And finally, in the fiber optic fund, revenues have increased from last year by $7,000, while expenses have increased by $78,000. This increase is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. That is my report for the evening. It's okay.
Not that I wasn't listening, but I was on topic.
That's okay.
Any questions on the financial report? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else that needs to come before council this evening?
Yes, sir, Mayor. We will be, I expect y'all to be at the West Trailhead in the morning at 6:45. We'll be leaving on our winter solstice.
I am sending Ed Mullinax as my proxy for tomorrow morning.
Ed will be there, but tomorrow we have our winter solstice hike. We'll be watching the sunrise in the morning and the sunset tomorrow afternoon. We'll be leaving tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock. It was originally posted at 5:15, but I can't make it up there in 18 minutes, so we're gonna have to give me 15 more minutes. And then next Friday afternoon, we've got our moonlight hike. So over the holidays, we'll be doing some mountain hiking. Jace, you'll be joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. If the Mayans are right, I don't know that's gonna come off tomorrow. Might have a real good view of what's getting ready to happen.
I'll just see y'all at the top. I probably would want to leave a little bit earlier in the morning than 6:45.
There with your namesake, huh?
Sure.
David Archer over there.
All right, just a couple of items that I have, in addition to the holiday wishes to everybody, and thank you to the staff and everybody that works at the city that makes this place so wonderful. Tomorrow at 9:30, we have asked all the local churches to ring their bell 26 times. That's in remembrance of the people of Newtown, an initiative that was started by another city earlier this week, and we're going to be participating in that, so we'll ask everybody to reflect during that time. And also, The next time we gather, we'll be still all here together, but we'll be under the rule of a new commissioner. Commissioner Brown will end his tenure at the end of the year, and I just wanted to recognize him from this bench for his time and his service and all his contributions to our community. And we wish him well in his retirement, and we're also encouraged by the leadership that Steve Taylor will bring as our new commissioner. So I just wanted to recognize that here tonight. Anything else? If not, there's a motion to adjourn.
Merry Christmas.
So move.
We're adjourned. I'll see you next year. We can get a harump on that.